God damn, Rooster Teeth. If you're gonna go in raw with everyone's emotions, can you at least go slowly rather than giving us the full shaft? What is going on, everyone? This is your host, RWBY, and man, this episode was pretty brutal, I'll give you that. There was actually some things that made me question the scene a little bit, which kinda took me out of the immersion for a brief second, so let's go check it out. Now, I know Neo used their semblance to create these illusions of characters who have either died or have been defeated. If you really think about it, that's kind of messed up, especially showing it to someone who's dealt with these people before. Like, you're just figuratively bringing up the dead back to the living again. But anyway, like, that scene was pure, like, brutality, like, yeah, psychologically. But however, some of the characters kind of got me questioning some things. Like, for instance, Lionheart. Like, why was Lionheart even there? Like, I remember we saw him at volumes 4 to 5, and you don't really see RWBY and Lionheart, like, interacting with one another. I mean, trust me, I tried. I tried looking for videos, and trust me, none of the search results, like, came to fruition with what I was trying to search for. And so, like, it got me wondering, why was he even there to begin with? Like, yeah, I know in that scene he took a few pot shots at her, but he never really spoke to her, even in that scene years later. So it got me wondering, what was his purpose and what was he supposed to symbolize in RWBY's like little ordeal? Next up, we got Clover. So I don't understand why he's there too. I mean, yeah, I get that he trained Team RWBY and a few others, but it's just that like Clover and RWBY's relationship, it didn't even resemble like a friendship at all if they even had like an interaction to begin with. I felt like Clover should have shown up for Crow specifically, because for one, Crow definitely developed this genuine partnership with him, and two, Crow started to lower his guard down, you know, his emotions, like to Clover, and started to open up a bit more. And heck, he even mourned for his death too, even though he fought him. But overall, I'm trying to understand what Clover's purpose was supposed to be in this scene, and what he was supposed to symbolize in the ordeal as well. Okay, let me get this out of the way first before we talk about Ozpin.
Nah, I'm just gonna keep beating you with this crowbar.
Now that I got that out of my head for a second, it makes sense for him to be there because he did assign RWBY as the team leader of RWBY, and when RWBY was doubting her leadership capabilities, they did have that talk around volume 1-ish as far as I remember, and it was kind of weird when he said this.
Do you have to ruin before you realize you're not cut out to save anyone?
For a person that assigned her to be leader and is blaming her for all the mistakes that she did, wouldn't that make it his fault too? Okay, look, I know that it's fake, that it's supposed to be an illusion and all that stuff. It just kind of came off as weird, but that's the only thing I kind of have an issue with. Overall, I think I gotta give his brutality portion a Joker out of 10. Cause holy, especially with that part with Oscar. Sweet spaghetti cuisine. For this part, we got Pyrrha. Man, it was great seeing her again. But not like this. Honestly, I felt like Neo should have saved her to use against Jean instead, rather than RWBY, because I think it makes much more an impact if it was against Jean. But I don't blame Neo for using her against RWBY too, because RWBY tried to save Pyrrha. We all remember that one scene, right? I feel like it's a weaker connection between her and Penny, because if you think about it, RWBY and Pyrrha never really talk that often, aside from this deleted scene right here.
Pyrrha? You okay?
Yeah. Nora!
Which is unfortunate because it would have made the last moments of the last episode of Volume 3 much more impactful. But Neo's not wrong for using her though. Like, even though Pyrrha was known to be selfless and courageous, it does break someone if they hear the most revered person talking down upon their mistakes. Like, that has to be soul-crushing on a psychological level. Even if you believe that it's not true, that it's not the actual person, still hear hearing it just in general and even seeing that person with your own eyes, that's extremely demoralizing. So I guess in this sense, it did make sense for Pyrrha to come back, just even though it was just for an illusion game. And I really think that they used her pretty well in terms of like psychological breakdown. And overall,
Hello again.
has a new meaning now. General Morningwood, the hardest early riser in the season, was the biggest truth bomb right there. Even though he said was an illusion, it was actually pretty true. RWBY's plan didn't work. I mean, remember RWBY's plan to save Atlas back in volume 7 and 8? Yeah, saving everyone, meaning leaving them in a fucking desert during a sandstorm that's filled with Grimm. Yeah, and also losing Penny and losing the 2 relics at the same time, and the whole kingdom of Atlas blew up to smithereens. So yeah, Ironwood had a point. Like, even though he was just an illusion, he really dropped that truth bomb right there. As harsh as it may sound, RWBY did need to hear that, because remember, RWBY's plan was wanting to save everybody. And keep in mind, like, I've never been to war myself, but I do know that in war, you have to make the best decision that is both reasonable and obtainable, and you need to use your best judgment to make sure that you have a plan to save as much people as you can within a reasonable time frame and secure the most important objectives at the same time, which is to secure the 2 relics and the maiden and save whoever you can and shoot everyone up into space, like everyone in Mantle to be shot up into space to avoid Salem and the Grim Horde. It sounds grim. Like, Ironwood's plan was grim. Like, he was gonna leave everyone to die. But honestly, war is grim. Unfortunately, you can't save everyone. And RWBY's intentions were good. It's just that her plan was neither obtainable nor reasonable. Reasonable in a sense where the probability of them saving everyone was completely against them. And the time frame that they had, there wasn't enough time to save everyone. I mean, you gotta think about it. You got the old, the sick, the wounded, the stubborn, you name it. RWBY had a good heart, but the plan was just extremely unrealistic. And you know, the thing is, RWBY's plan could have worked if she actually worked with Ironwood. But no, RWBY decided to lie to him about the lamp, and the rest of them decided to do their own thing behind his back. And for what? Like, overall, like I mentioned, it's pretty harsh, like what Ironwood said to her during that scene, but it's true. And I really felt like RWBY needed to hear that. Even though she's already broken, I feel like that illusion could have confirmed how much of a mistake that she's done in terms of backstabbing Ironwood and ruining his plans and making her realize the outcome of her mistakes. Now we got Penny. I know that Jean did kill her. Remember, RWBY failed to save Penny twice. First at the Vital Festival, and the second... Okay, yes, I did mention Jean and also Cinder playing a part of it, but I also think her Atlas plan was also a direct outcome of what happened to Penny as well, and I felt like RWBY could have fixed that before it was too late by not backstabbing Ironwood. But overall, Penny being there actually did fit the scene. Like, Penny even mentioned how it feels to die like that, which is so grim, especially since that person was your closest friend and you tried everything to save her but you failed. Man, that was just so brutal on a psychological level. No violence needed, just pure words. God damn. Like, we saw RWBY, like, since volume 3, felt remorse for losing her. She was even her closest friend, like, outside of her own team, which makes it even more sad. I think it was like the final nail in the coffin, to be honest. Aside from all this, Neo using Roman to visually explain to RWBY that she's out for revenge was actually pretty genius if you think about it. And once Neo delivered that final nail in the coffin to break RWBY, insert clip here. She exacted her revenge, but at what cost? Look at her face in this scene.
Take over this whole absurd place! Why not? Offing Little Red can't be all you wanted. Right?
she got her revenge, but at what cost? Like, it looks like she broke down too if you look at her face, because she came to the realization that revenge wasn't the answer. That now that she had enacted her revenge on Ruby, that now what? You know, none of this is gonna bring Roman back. None of this is gonna fix whatever problems Neo had internally or externally. And she was so broken down, just as much as Ruby arguably, that she let herself get possessed by the cat, which is, to be honest, quite unexpected, to be honest, and also quite a disturbing scene too as well, if you look at her face. To conclude all this episode was actually really brutal. Probably the most brutal episode of RWBY as to date. Now, on the surface level, it is very impactful, and I mean very. But when you look deeper into its substance, it does raise a few questions like I had talked about in the vid. And I just thought I'd like to point it out and see if anyone noticed it, or agrees with me, or disagrees with me. And overall, I just want to say thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you all in a bit. Peace.
Yeah.